For over 50 years, Iran's leaders have railed against what they see as the biggest threat to their way of life: Western cultural influence. Front and center are two primary targets: Israel, which they've branded the Little Satan, and the US, the Great Satan. But why is American culture so much trouble for Iran's leaders? And why they gotta be so mean to Israel? To understand that, you need to distill American culture down to its essence. When the dust settles and the music fades, two words rise above the rest: Taylor Swift. Simply put, Taylor Swift represents everything that threatens the very foundation of Iran's regime. So, could it be that Taylor Swift is the greatest threat to Iran? If you've got bad blood with Western culture, then you've got bad blood with Taylor Swift. And the leaders of Iran have seriously bad blood with Western culture. It's been that way since a revolution in Iran took down a Western-backed Iranian dictator who had also been a huge fan of Western culture. But rather than get democracy, Iranians got a new dictator who was never, ever getting back together with the West. Ayatollah Khomeini called his movement the Islamic Revolution and renamed the country the Islamic Republic of Iran. And with that, Khomeini started his war against the West, with a special focus on what he termed the Great Satan and the Little Satan. But what does the US, a melting pot of hundreds of millions of people, have in common with the tiny Jewish state? That's right, Taylor Swift. Or more specifically, everything she and her work represent. So we're gonna look at 5 core Great Satan values at the heart of Taylor Swift's life and work. We'll see how each value is reflected in the Little Satan and why they're such a threat to the Iranian regime. So 1, 2, 3, let's go, babe.
Are you ready for it?
Number 1, individualism and self-expression. From a young age, Swift was focused on the value of being an individual.
This is a song I wrote yesterday. It's about a girl who's just different.
Swift's focus on individuality is expressed not just in her deeply personal lyrics, but also in her fans. Going to the Eras Tour isn't just a concert, but a canvas for individual self-expression, as fans dress up, wear costumes, create individualized friendship bracelets, and share them with others. Call it what you want, but her perspective is nothing new in the West. Quite the opposite. Celebrating individuality is a huge part of Western culture and media.
You're the only one of you. Baby, that's the fun of you.
Western individuality manifests itself in Israel in that frustratingly Israeli trait, chutzpah. That bold individuality is often considered the foundation of Israeli success in high tech, pushing beyond the conformity of ideas that surround us. But for the Islamic Republic of Iran, individualism is not only not celebrated, it's a symptom of egocentrism that pulls people away from community and God. The Islamic Republic's laws focus on safeguarding communal moral standards over individual freedoms. Individuality is a threat to community and collective values. In an Islamic dictatorship, conformity is the name of the game. And nowhere is that more clear than in Iran's laws regarding women. So, number 2, female empowerment.
I want to love glitter and also stand up for the double standards that exist in our society.
Swift's commitment to female empowerment isn't just lip service. After a popular radio DJ groped her, she got him fired. When he tried to get a payday out of her by suing her for defamation, she countersued for just $1 to show she was fighting back on principle and not to make a buck. The outcome of the lawsuits? She won. She took on Spotify and Apple Music and won. She took on a major talent agent and record label and didn't win. So she started re-recording her previous albums, with the re-releases hitting the top of the Billboard charts. When Kanye West started up with her, she fought back, taking on one of the biggest names in music. She called him out in her lyrics. She called him out in her acceptance speeches. When a cancel movement went after her, she shook it off to become the biggest name in music. Swift's focus on female empowerment is also seen in Israeli culture. In a region known for severe limitations on women's rights, Israel has always been an anomaly, from the egalitarian kibbutz movement of the early 20th century until today. And while women throughout the region have made huge strides in the last few decades, Iran is correct that it's the result of the infiltration of Western culture and ideals. After the Islamic Revolution, Khomeini ordered that all women must cover their hair in public, as well as other restrictions on women. Recently, women in Iran have been fighting back, and as we know all too well, Iran's morality police have cracked down, with deadly results. The protests were considered the first counter-revolution led by women, and that counter-revolution was among the greatest threats to the regime in recent history. Which is to say, the regime isn't wrong for thinking Taylor-style women's empowerment is a threat, and when the regime feels threatened, it lashes out. Which brings us to number 3, freedom of speech and political expression.
These walls that they put up to hold us back will fall down.
Swift's relationship with political self-expression is fascinating because for so many years, she stayed completely silent on politics.
It's my right to vote, but it's not my right to tell other people what to do.
And from a business perspective, it makes sense. As her agent put it,
we could halve the number of people that come to you next to it.
By censoring herself, Swift was able to conform to social expectations.
I was so obsessed with not getting in trouble. I was like, I'm just not gonna do anything that anyone could say anything about.
It's a sentiment well understood in Iran, where censorship is ubiquitous. The internet is controlled, and in times of unrest, it's even entirely shut off. And saying anything against the regime can land you in prison or worse.
Iranian dissident journalist Rahul Azam was executed on Saturday.
In stark contrast, the last few years have seen Israelis taking full advantage of their freedom of speech. From protests to political commentary to criticism of the military, Israelis experience the freedom to speak their minds as much as any Westerner. And it's a value Swift has pushed herself to actualize in recent years.
Taylor Swift broke her silence on politics over the weekend.
It's not that I want to step into this, I can't not at this point.
The following year, she released Lover, saying,
The only thing I really read every day is political news. There are actual inflections of how I feel politically on this record.
American glory faded before me. Are you mad when you could be glad?
For those who missed it, GLAAD here refers to one of the most important advocacy groups in the LGBTQ movement, which brings us to number 4, romantic autonomy and LGBTQ rights.
But you would rather be in the dark ages making that sign. Must have taken all night.
With her 2019 song You Need to Calm Down, Swift made it abundantly clear where she stood on LGBTQ rights. And while we could argue whether or not the LGBTQ movement is fundamentally Western, I think we can agree that romantic autonomy is fundamental to Western society. From Romeo and Juliet to... And that value is alive and well in Israel. So much so that Israel recognized same-sex marriages long before the US. Israel sent transgender Dana International to the Eurovision already back in 1998. Tel Aviv hosts one of the largest pride parades per capita in the world. And while Israeli LGBTQ activists say there is still a ways to go, there's no doubt the West's values on romantic autonomy are deeply rooted in Israel. But for Iran, the LGBTQ movement is a Western scheme to upend humanity.
They are trying to end a generation of human beings, and at the same time they are acting against the nature of human beings.
For Iran, romantic freedom and LGBTQ rights are a threat, and they respond to it like any other threat.
Gay men are executed in Iran year-round, but now 2 women known to have been lesbian have been sentenced to death.
And the threat of Swiftism to Iran is only growing, bringing us to number 5, consumerism.
$1.5 billion.
You're making me feel excellent right now.
Swift's Eras Tour brings together all the Western value Iran hates and packages it into an Iranian nightmare, consumerism. As Khomeini said back in 1998, the West and their coward agents think of nothing but colonizing you and making you a dependent and consumerist nation. For Iran's Muslim rulers, consumerism is not only a sin, but a Western plot to colonize Iran, not through military might, but by controlling Iranians' minds. And it makes sense.
You understand now why they lost their minds and fought the war
lives. It's such a huge pain to send in the military and conquer a country when you can instead just send in Taylor Swift's music, acculturate the innocent, and transform them into feminist LGBTQ individualists hooked on Nike and cheeseburgers. As Iran's former president said, consumerism has become a social value. Encouraging consumption for more production have emerged as an endless cycle of devastation. I think one of the greatest representations of how the Great Satan is conquering minds across the globe is by comparing attendance at Taylor Swift's Eras Tour to attendance at the Hajj, the most significant annual pilgrimage in Islam. In contrast to visiting a Muslim holy site, these people are coming to see their idol, the goddess of Westernism, and her power continues to spread, never going out of style. And if Taylor Swift is the pop culture embodiment of Western values, Israel is the national embodiment of Taylor Swift in the Middle East. Which is why Israel was dubbed by Khomeini as the Little Satan. It's why Iran hates Israel so deeply, not because of the Palestinians or the threat of war, but because Iran has a strict Islamist, anti-Western vision of the world, and that vision is increasingly threatened by growing global pop cultural forces like Taylor Swift, and the growing influence Israel has on the Middle East as it grows closer to the Emirates and Saudi Arabia. The war between Iran and Israel is just one front in Iran's war for the minds of Muslims and non-Muslims around the world. A war Iran is fighting as much with Israel as it is with the cultural forces represented by Taylor Swift.
I would very much like to be excluded from this narrative.